Hi everyone and welcome to our next lesson. In today's lesson we will be looking at climate change and reviewing what we have done so far on this topic. Our challenge is to be able to describe how changes occur in our atmosphere. Our aspire is to be able to explain the effects of pollutants in our atmosphere. But first, we've got a few things for us to have a go at remembering. For 200 million years, the proportions of different gases in the atmosphere have been much the same as they are today. Can you remember the main gases in the atmosphere and their approximate percentages? So let's check our answers. First of all, just looking at this pie chart, you can see that there's a large proportion of this pale lilac colour, 79%. You could also say it's approximately 80%. The gas represented there is nitrogen, and that makes up the majority of our atmosphere. Then, in this little 1%, that is actually other gases. That's more than one gas. And the gases actually making up that 1% include carbon dioxide and small proportions of other gases, including argon and water vapour. That means that remaining 20% in that pink section is actually oxygen. It's really important that you know these percentages. So why is our atmosphere now changing? The main thing we will be looking at today is the increased combustion of fossil fuels, which causing pollutants to form. There are a few other reasons that will actually be covered in more detail in a later topic. That includes deforestation, disposal of waste, and the use of resources. And like I've already said, they'll be covered in a later video, but keep them in mind. So let's recap the pollutants. First, the most commonly known pollutant, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is formed during complete combustion. Now you might remember from the previous video, that means when there is plenty of oxygen, and it is linked to global warming, which is a process we also went through in a previous video. Now, if there is not enough oxygen for that fuel to burn, we get two other pollutants form instead. The first is carbon monoxide, which is formed during that incomplete combustion and is toxic. Remember, we talked about how it's sometimes called the silent killer, as it has no smell and no taste, and it has to be detected pretty much by a carbon monoxide detector. We wouldn't know if that was building up in our houses otherwise. And carbon particulates, which again form during incomplete combustion and are linked to global dimming. There's two other pollutants that can be caused during the combustion process. The first one is nitrogen oxides. Now that is not formed in the reaction of combustion. That is formed when nitrogen and oxygen from the air react in an engine due to that high temperature and pressure. And nitrogen oxides cause acid rain. Also, sulfur dioxide, which is formed when sulfur impurities in fuels react with oxygen, and that is also linked to acid rain. So, I've got some situations on the screen that you can see. I want you to have a go at naming the pollutant that is responsible for each of those environmental changes. Okay, so let's check your answers. Okay, so take our first image, and it's this image here, which is a city, and in that city it looks quite dim, it's got very low visibility, and looking at that, that shouts to me global dimming. So that is linked to carbon particulates which have built up in that atmosphere, and you can see that dimming effect there. So let's have a look at our next picture. Our next picture is this. It's a little gargoyle. They're commonly found on really, really old churches. But as you can see, looking at this image, the features aren't as obvious anymore. Now, a lot of old churches were made out of limestone. So limestone, corrosion, that's saying to me now, that's acid rain that's caused that, which is linked to sulfur dioxide. Or you could have also said nitrogen oxides. The acidic rain has actually reacted with the limestone carving. So that's why we can see that it's not as prominent, it's not as clear as it probably was in the past. So our next one, quite a sad little image. We're looking at a little polar bear family on a very, very small piece of ice, looking possibly for their food. Now, ice, polar bears, that's saying to me, carbon dioxide, global warming. What's happened here is the ice caps have started melting, it's destroying that habitat, and that's because of the increased global temperature. So well done if you got all of those right. So let's start to look at linking. That was a little bit of a linking exercise there. Quite often you can be given data based on pollutants formed in an exam during burning, and then asked to explain or evaluate the impact of those fuels. In these cases, linking statements are really important. So when you are looking at that data, pick up on a pollutant and link that to its effect in the atmosphere. It's all about cause and effect. So the pollutant is the cause. What effect will that pollutant have? And then how is that going to impact our planet? So I'm going to walk you through an example of this, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of time to have a go at one on your own. So here's our question. Rank the fuels A, B, C and D based on their environmental impact. Explain your answer. So if I look at what information we've got in the table first, the first thing that I'm looking at is carbon dioxide. Now, I would make a note on this. What does carbon dioxide cause? Global warming. So if one of those fuels is giving out carbon dioxide, it's going to be linked to global warming. We've got water vapour, which is relatively safe. That's not a pollutant. And then we've got sulphur dioxide. What does sulphur dioxide cause? Acid rain. Okay, so now we're starting to look at each fuel individually, and I'm going to go through and have a look, see if I can find the best fuel first. The best fuel is going to be the one that has the least ticks, and preferably in water vapour. So if I look through each fuel, I can see that B has only one tick, and it's in water vapour, which means B is not a polluting fuel. B is actually going to be hydrogen. So if I were in the exam now, I'd start my answer, and the first thing I'd write is fuel B is the best. It only forms water when burnt, which is non-polluting. So if I look to the next ones, I've got A and C. Okay, A and C both produce carbon dioxide, but A also produces water vapour. Now, water vapour is non-polluting. So when I talk about A and C, the main issue is that carbon dioxide, and I'm going to link that to global warming. So let's have a look at how I've worded that next section. Fuel A and C both produce carbon dioxide, which is linked to global warming. Fuel A also produces water vapour, but this is again non-polluting. So now I've got to have a look at our last fuel, which is fuel D. What are our issues surrounding fuel D? So now we're looking at fuel D, and we can see fuel D has actually got a tick in every single column. So it produces carbon dioxide, which is linked to global warming. It produces sulphur dioxide, which is linked to acid rain. So fuel D is clearly the worst. So how I've written that is fuel D is the worst fuel as it produces carbon dioxide and also produces sulphur dioxide, which is linked to acid rain. Some of you may be thinking, why did I not link the carbon dioxide to global warming? And the reason I didn't is because it's already mentioned in the previous statement, and that would have just been repeating myself, whilst actually sometimes that's not a bad thing. I didn't see the point in writing it again now. So, time for you guys to have a go. So now I've given you a different table. I'm just going to read through some of the headings for you. I want you to rank these fuels again based on their environmental impact and explain your answer. Just a few things to note. CO2 is the symbols for carbon dioxide. SO2 are the symbols for sulphur dioxide. H2O is water. And the type of flame, if it is a smoky flame, that implies carbon particulates. So I'm going to give you some time, have a go at answering this question, and then we'll go through some answers. So you may have something along the lines of hydrogen is the best fuel because it is renewable, releases a lot of energy. Hydrogen also only produces water during combustion, which is non-polluting. Then you've possibly put bioethanol, again because it's renewable, but it doesn't produce as much energy as hydrogen. Also, it produces carbon dioxide, which causes global warming. However, the plants that it's made from will take carbon dioxide in as they grow, so it is a carbon neutral fuel. So the next fuel you've probably gone with is natural gas. Natural gas is not renewable and produces carbon dioxide, which causes global warming. But the flame is not smoky, which implies it is not producing carbon particulates. The last fuel, and therefore the worst fuel, is coal, because again it's non-renewable. When it is burnt, coal produces carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide, which causes acid rain. And it has a smoky flame, which means carbon particulates are being formed, which cause global dimming. Okay, so I hope you got some of those points. Now you can move on to answer some of the questions, and there's a few extension tasks as well. Okay, bye everyone, see you in the next video.